Around 100 pro-Palestinian activists have been stopped by Israeli authorities on their way to the West Bank from Jordan. The group aimed to deliver aid to school children in Bethlehem refugee camps, but were reportedly turned away without any explanation. Israel's defense ministry later labeled the activists' move as a failed publicity stunt. This latest incident follows another scandal involving Palestinian children. A number of Israeli veterans have spoken out, describing a degrading culture of abuse and harassment of youngsters in the West Bank and Gaza. Activists have released a report containing dozens of testimonies that detail numerous cases of violence committed by former soldiers. Artis Pauluslier has the story.
The Israeli Defense Forces has come under fire from its own rank and file. An organization known as Breaking the Silence has published the testimonies of some 30 Israeli soldiers and commanders in which they deal specifically with how the IDF treats Palestinian children, Palestinian minors. They talk about the arbitrary use of violence by soldiers when it comes to children, and at the same time they say that very often the IDF deliberately targets children, using them as human shields during its operations. But these reports also go on to say that even when children are not deliberately targeted, they are not afforded any kind of protection when there is a shootout or any kind of military operation. Now, these reports come hot on the heels of another two damning conclusions that were reached by two separate groups, one being an eminent group of British lawyers and another an international human rights group known as Save the Children Foundation. Now, both of these found that the IDF is in violation of international law when it comes to how it treats Palestinian children. They said that very often these children are put into solitary confinement, they are treated and abused, they suffer extensive damage. At the same time, the army is using things like shackles to extract confessions from these children, that those confessions are extracted under duress, and also these children are not afforded any kind of legal representation. Now, also this weekend, there were demonstrations, as indeed there are every week, at Nabil Saleh, which is a Palestinian village. Villagers there are complaining about the gradual encroachment of a nearby settlement on their water supplies. They say that those water supplies are being taken over by the settlers, and as a result, they have no water with which to use on their fields or for drinking water. But in footage that was captured on camera, these soldiers can be seen going from house to house and physically taking people out of their homes. One person was injured, at least 6 people were arrested, 5 of whom were children, and there are pictures of the daughters of one woman trying to save their mother as she was manhandled by these soldiers who were also using stun grenades. So certainly not a good time for the IDF. It's finding itself being criticized on a number of fronts. Pauluslier, RT, Tel Aviv.
واعتقلوا الأحباب وصادروا الحرية في وضح النظر. لا تحزني يا دار سيفرح الصغار فكلنا إصرار.
عاودت قوات الاحتلال من جديد تهديدها بقصف منازل المواطنين عبر الاتصال بالهاتف، حيث هددت بقصف منزل المواطن أبو بلال الجعابير بشمال قطاع غزة، الأمر الذي دفع المواطنين للتوجه إلى منزل الجعابير مشكلين دروعا بشرية في محاولة لمنع الاحتلال من قصف المنزل وتشريد أهله.
فتحت الجوال وإذا به يسأل: أنت أبو بلال الجعابير؟ قلت نعم. فقال: أنا الأمن الإسرائيلي، معك 5 دقائق تخلي أنت أولادك. فأقفلت الجوال على الفور، واتصلت ببعض الأصدقاء، فهرع الأهالي عبر مكبرات الصوت وملأوا سطح المنزل، وظلوا حتى الآن يعني مرابطون على سطح المنزل إلى أن يشاء الله سبحانه وتعالى.
المواطنون وفور سماع نبأ التهديد باستهداف المنزل خرجوا من منازلهم متوجهين إلى منزل الجعابير ليشكلوا دروعا بشرية في محاولة لمنع قصف المنزل.
ولا يعلمون أن الشعب الفلسطيني قد طور من موته ومن بحثه على الموت، ولذلك أصبح الموت عند الشعب الفلسطيني صناعة تجيده النساء، تجيده كل من في هذه الأرض، يجيده الشيوخ، يجيده المجاهدون، ويجيده الأطفال. لذلك شكلوا دروعا بشرية من النساء والأطفال والشيوخ والمجاهدين ليتحدوا بذلك آلة القصف الصهيونية، وكأنهم يقولون للعدو الصهيوني: إننا نحرص على الموت كما تحرصون على الحياة.
والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. إلى من تخاذل عن نصرة أهل الشام، الحمد لله الذي أكرمنا بإنشاء جيل جديد من أمة النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. هؤلاء يا بشار الأسد ويا أعوانه بإذن الله سننتصر بهم، وأنتم أيها المتخاذلون إن شاء الله نحن منتصرون. بسم الله والله أكبر.
A civilian car screams in bearing a child with a head wound. In the time we spent at this hospital today, we saw things that will forever be hard to unsee. At least 87 dead overnight, but this number will rise. A third of them children. More than 460 Palestinians killed in less than 2 weeks, 3,000 injured. Inside Shifa, it's chaos. The emergency room was full of children. This is triage. Israel said it went into Gaza to avert the massacre of Israeli civilians. Doctors here accuse Israel of massacring Palestinian civilians instead.
And the ambulances were going in convoys in order to be safer. And in each ambulance there would be 3, 4, 5 children lying upon each other, elders. I've never seen so many kids being injured and killed. I think we have 4, 5, 6 without heads, shot apart by the Israeli bombardment.
The hospital morgue is full. We witnessed terrible scenes of distress among relatives of those killed. The hospital garden now home to hundreds of Shajaya's new homeless. This is the Sukar extended family. There was a baby born 2 hours into the bombardment, this woman says. We did not know how to protect him. This has been a shocking day to witness. For Israel, the aim of this war is to destroy Hamas rockets and tunnels, but it feels like a war against children. Jonathan Miller, Channel 4 News, Gaza City.
The enemy doesn't care about children. He shelters behind little girls.
Using Palestinian civilians as human shields is a common tactic employed by Hamas terrorists when launching rocket attacks against Israelis.
I saw around 200 children, and behind these children I saw 3 men, terrorists, put a Qassam launcher and launch a Qassam. The dilemma that I had as a commander, the only gun that could be effective to this range is a machine gun, and it's not accurate.
Should Major Roe Levy have ordered his soldiers to fire their machine guns and risk killing Palestinian children, or hold their fire and allow terrorists to send rockets into Sderot, possibly killing Israeli children?
The end of the story is that I didn't pull the trigger. They launched the Qassam. Was it a right thing to do?
These are the kinds of tough choices that Major Levy of the Golani Brigade and every other soldier in Israel's defense forces must face every day.
Of course, mistakes do happen. It happened, and we will do research and study and punish. If one of my soldiers will commit a crime, he will go to a trial. I will make sure that he will go to a trial. I don't need no Goldstone report and whatever. I will do it myself because I believe that we need to be moral and to sleep at night. It's 3 years in the army, but it's whole life that I will have to deal with something I've done.
Israeli soldiers carry their moral compass with pride, despite the terrible life or death decisions they face on a daily basis.
It is an impossible choice, I think. If you ask a mother of an infantry soldier that was killed because we couldn't give the response quickly enough, it wasn't worth it. But I think in a bigger view, we really did everything in our power to make sure that only those that we wanted to harm were harmed. It brings me peace.
When I look back in the history of other militaries, other countries, the easiest thing to do and what they have done is to wipe the enemy out. That's it. But we are different. We are totally different. From one hand, it seems insane, but from the other hand, I'm very proud to be in an army that have this level of morality, and I'm proud of my soldiers.